Pros in the Wild. Good morning, DLS and Chaz. I was listening to this week's episode of The Grit, and you were discussing how nice Tom Curren is. I have a quick story for you. In 2016, I was assistant manager at the Encinitas Home Depot in San Diego. I'll never forget this. My district manager was in the store, and we were in the middle of a business review. I branch off to help a customer, and as I'm walking back to the leadership team, I walk past the paint desk where a younger associate is helping someone, not just anyone. It's him. Tom Curren. He is wearing ripped gray sweatpants and a gray t-shirt. I was in a bit of a hurry to get back to my meeting, but I couldn't help myself. I had to say something. After all, my hero is standing right here in front of me. I stop and say, man, has anyone ever told you you look like Tom Curren? Curren looks at my apron to see my name. He sticks his hand out and says, 𝘾𝙤𝙢𝙧𝙧𝙚. I'm Tom Curren. It's nice to meet you. And he shakes my hand. What I'm trying to say is Tom Curren is in fact the nicest dude ever. He had no obligation to speak to me or introduce himself, but he did. He said my name, looked me in the eye. What a class act. Work.
Man, Tom Curren, I feel we on this program alone, Tom Curren can thank us later, but I think we're getting Tom Curren fast tracked to sainthood. I feel Tom Curren, when time is up, going to end up at the pearly gates, and St. Peter is going to say, Tom, we have another lane for you, a special lane, Saint Tom Curren.
The express lane.
Yeah.
I agree. Like, I've gotten to know Tom over the course of us doing this and getting these listeners emails, because in my mind, Tom was sainthood as it relates to surfing and sainthood as it relates to style. But I thought that his personality, I thought that maybe his, I hate to say, his intellect was limited. And what I've learned is that no, he is actually humble and quiet. And that's not a reflection of he doesn't have anything to say. It's a reflection of his gentlemanliness.
See, and I had always been under the impression, I have not spent time with Tom Curren like you have, but I was always under the impression that his kind of offbeatness kind of thing, was born from an addled mind, right? That he had kind of got a little, not dumb, but like a little, he probably never started that smart and then got a little loopy as time went on, right? And it was endearing and cute, but no, is like, not only is he not that is a poor description, is what I'm hearing and feeling. He is a kind, soft-spoken gentleman who's going about things his own way.
Totally. And it was not only a poor description, it was a misunderstanding of the public that he could have attempted to write at any point by engaging in an interview, but he didn't. He didn't care. He's like, no, you can feel what you want to feel, because he's that gentlemanly, where he just doesn't, he's doing his own thing.
Great.
And his own things are great. Like he's making great music. He's spending time with family. Like he's doing it. So I got one other one, pro in the wild. Hey, DLS and Chaz, I wanted to submit a pro in the wild on behalf of my father. My father moved to the Gold Coast when he was 7. After the untimely passing of his father at age 13, he took up surfing. He went to school with Rabbit and would regularly see MP getting spat out of barrels at 𝘾𝙪𝙢𝙢𝙧𝙀. What a time. One day, as Dad and his friends walked down the beach to enjoy the pumping Gold Coast beachy, they spied a group of young women sunbathing on the beach. Right before paddling out, they glanced back to see one, Peter Drouyn, wandering down the beach, board under arm. They wince, knowing that they are about to have their session marred by the obnoxious showman. They all expedite their paddle out to try to grab a couple before Peter makes it to the lineup. But when they look back to check on Peter's status, they see that he's doing push-ups in front of the girls. They had a chuckle and they enjoyed the added time in the lineup. My father and his friends surfed for 2 hours, and Peter never paddled out. Eventually, they went in, and sure enough, Peter is sitting amongst the girls holding court. Dad had a few interactions with Peter over the years and found him to be a much better talker than a surfer. Not to say that Peter didn't earn plenty of his accolades and awards, but his priorities certainly had shifted. Keep work. Regards, Craig Rogers.
Wow, thank you, Craig. Peter Drouyn in the Wild Stories. I feel we could get more and more of these coming in. Did you, speaking of, read Matt Warshaw's take on the Westerly Windina film?
I've been meaning to. I just haven't taken the time.
Yeah. Warshaw's so great with his, real honest breakdowns, right? Like he really goes through a lot of it in terms of Peter's complaints about being left out or this, that, or the other thing, and says, yeah, but no, right? Like this is the actual history is this, this, and this, which I felt was a great addendum to both the film and the ongoing story of Peter slash Westerly.
Well, you talked about it last week a little bit. I watched the film a second time in Florida with Jamie, actually, and then I talked to Jamie about it a bit. So I got to process my thoughts a little bit more. And ultimately, I just felt sad for Peter.
It's
Like,
sad.
it is a sad, he's a sad figure. I felt sad for him in his youth when he was a brash, machismo. I felt sad for him as a womanizer who, all of those pursuits are just kind of seeking validation, you know? And so I felt sad for him that way. As Westerly, I felt sad because Westerly certainly faced a lot of discrimination and never felt the validation that she had been as Peter seeking. Um, and then in the transition back into Peter after Westerly, sad, very sad, like
All of it's sad.
a shell of multiple people at that point.
Which I mean, and at some point, and this is why though for me, I uh gifted it with the golden, which film won, by the way?
Water Brother.
Okay, good. Love Water Brother. I mean, Sid, Water Brother, phenomenal. But the reason that I voted for Westerly was purely for Jamie. He must have realized at some point, like as a storyteller, you have this story that's fascinating, right? And then you start getting into it and you realize that it's fascinating and complex. And at some point, Jamie realized this is also deeply depressing. This is not a feel-good story. This is a train wreck in a way, but I'm going to keep the camera on because this is an honest human story and it doesn't have a happy ending and there's not good feels from it. And I mean, Water Brother, again, best ever. Sid, love the movie beyond, but had a real classic arc in terms
Yeah.
of, the kid who grew up loving surfing, skateboarding and stuff, got the shop, went a little too hard on the booze, cleaned up. It's a beautiful story and Sid's beautiful. Sid is that, right? Sid is a beautiful subject matter. Peter Drouyn slash Westerly was not good subject matter, and yet Jamie never pulled the plug on it. Jamie continued. Where I wonder, did you ask? I'll have to ask Jamie this at some point. I wonder if Jamie looks back and think, man, that was a waste of 10 years. I made
No.
art. I got a book. I got a film, but it is neither of what, if I could go back, I would not spend my time doing that.
Look, you're right. You should ask Jamie that, but I would guess that his answer is no. It was definitely not a waste of time. It was perhaps my life's great work.
Yeah. I mean, which once again, that's the way the film came off to me. It was not a happy film. It is not a pleasant film. It is not which is hard, but it is a magnum opus.
It is definitely because the subject matter is so complex. There's not a lot of projects that you could dedicate time to that would offer that much depth and richness. Um, I think I told you weeks ago when I first brought up that I had watched it that I was surprised how non-judgmental I was. I expected to go in and watch the film and then be trying to identify something that triggered him in his youth to then live the life that ultimately he led. But I didn't. All that I felt was sympathy for the figure and the character and what they had been going through, and ultimately kind of wanted to hug him, or her throughout until something I forgot about on my first viewing, but I remembered on the second one. There's a small bit in the middle of the film where Rabbit says, "Oh, yeah." And then he got caught with an underage girl.
Yeah.
And then they cut to Peter's attorney friend who said, yeah, that happened and legally it all went away ultimately. So I don't know if the victim got paid off or whatever. There wasn't enough evidence to fully prosecute Peter. And Jamie, actually, I talked to Jamie about it and he said, yeah, there was not more there that was worth putting in the film because allegations were made legally. That was all. They were allegations. There was no more pursuit after that. And so as filmmakers, we had to present the topic because it was an allegation, but there was no more basically to present after that. So me as a viewer, I'm like, I'm open-minded and I'm not any of the morals that I was raised with or judgments that I developed from those morals. I was not imposing on Peter or Westerly as a character until it turns
Yeah.
out I do have morals because that is wrong. Like you can't sleep with an underage chick as like a 40-year-old, no matter what the age is. You know what I mean? But like,
I mean, completely. And again, back to I feel that, and I don't know what Jamie felt going in, but through the film, not that he leaves with this, because I feel Jamie does a really good job of just painting Peter slash Westerly as Peter slash Westerly is. And the problem with that character is it just deeply, 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 deeply flawed. It feels like there's not a lot there, like that it's manipulative, narcissistic, like it's a bunch of bad stuff mixed in. I don't know that there's a lot of good elements in that person, right?
yeah.
But then this is your life's work, is making a film out of a person that, again, I don't know Peter or Westerly, but it just seems like it's all a manipulation.
Well, I don't think that it was a manipulation in terms of trying to get people to believe something that Peter didn't believe. Or I think the manipulation was just Peter seeking validation, Westerly seeking validation, them operating out of their own best interest at all times, trying to
Yeah.
get. But ultimately, this relates back to 𝘿𝙧𝙧𝙦 never being satisfied.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
You've gotten everything. You've gotten the surfing awards, like, and it's still not enough for you. You're only
yeah.
looking at the ones you didn't get.
Yeah. I mean, it's the insatiable drive to feed something in you without ever pausing to think, okay, now I'm going to feed or try to feed somebody around me.
Exactly. And the insatiable thing that you're trying to feed is a black hole that's just going to vacuum it out the
Suck.
back.
Yeah.
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 So that's part. So the listener wrote this story about Drouyn showing up at the beach and doing the push-ups, part of me thinks, yeah, he did shift perspectives or priorities in life. Surfing isn't as high of a priority at this point. Women are more of a priority, or whatever it is, or today on this given day it is. And part of me thinks that's natural and that's actually healthy. Surfing should not be your priority throughout your entire life, right? But if the priority becomes something that is superficial or a narcissistic pursuit, then it's reflective of something unhealthy, and surfing could actually be the saving grace. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, I
And
mean,
so that
surfing is built into its very fiber, both narcissism and selfishness. Like that's the whole thing. So you could just take that out in the water and be that, and that's okay out there. Like surfing can, you'll be a pest in the lineup or whatever. But the world of surfing is about kind of a broad selfishness.
totally.
And like, yeah, like doing something for yourself. Rarely, how often are you out in the waves? When you're really hooting on somebody else. Like I'll surf with the wife all the time and I'm stoked when she gets a wave and stuff like that. But generally you're out there surfing not to watch other people surf. You're out surfing to get yours.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, even if somebody's ripping, I'm definitely not hooting at them.
Yeah.
It'd
Or
have to be,
not even necessarily stoked. Like you feel like I will recognize that person is ripping, and right beneath that will be, I wish I was on that wave.
yeah, totally.